So I was watching Polarity work his magic on a video the other day, and he basically recreated something called a Fugue machine inside of Bitwig, which is really cool. If you don't know what a Fugue machine is, it looks something kind of like this, where you can use this as a sequencer to plug in multiple notes, kind of like so. You hit play, and you'll see that all of these are going to have multiple playheads playing back and forth at once. It's very cool, and you can do some really cool stuff with that. However, what's awesome as well is that you don't need to go buy that, even though I do think that is a great tool. And by having something like Drambo, sorry, my brain is working faster than my hands. We have something called the sequencer in here that can actually do the same thing. So this is only one playhead, but in order for us to create multiple instances of these, all we have to do is create a Midi Rack. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and look at how to get some notes in here, and then I'll show you how to work this. So if you type this in here, you'll see that this little red box is highlighted, and what we want to do is hit record. And so now, if we kind of set this up, thank you for the follow. Then we've got a collection of notes that we can actually go back in here and edit. So this is actually the notes on the sequencer, so we can move everything off if we want to. Doesn't really matter. Just kind of make it weird. And this is actually something that is better than the Fugue machine inside of the VST because, sorry, the AUV3 plugin, because this can actually offset notes. And if you know me, that's something that's a very big deal. Now, this melody that I created is just for demonstration, so please don't be like, oh my gosh, that's the dumbest melody in the world. But now, as you can see, we have a collection here of things, and whenever we hit play, you'll see that there's this little green bar at the bottom of this. But what's awesome is that we can actually make this move backwards. And then we can offset this as well. So because we're able to do that, this is basically all we need in order to control something like this. So what we would do is we would go copy, and actually I'm going to go cut, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a Midi Rack. So if we go like this, you'll see that there's that here. Is there a MIDI layers? MIDI layer? Let me see what else we have here. We need to output MIDI mixer, MIDI switch, MIDI to poly, MIDI mixer perhaps. And so if we start to put stuff on here, kind of like so, and then we go paste, we go here, and to this guy, there we go. Now we can have multiple instances of this doing different things. So let's go copy, paste, and then let's do that one more time. Paste. So now if we go here, then we go here, then we can send this guy into that guy, and now we can do a bunch of different stuff with this. So we can set this one to be at 1, we can set this to be at reverse. Let's just do 2 for now, so that way we can kind of keep this in mind of how to work on this. Change the offset here, and now whenever we hit play, let's set this to 1/2. Check this out. And just to double confirm that this is working, we've got sound from this one, and then we've got sound from this one. It's kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, it's definitely something that you can utilize to have things bounce back and forth. And so I think that, I'm not really sure, but there's probably a way to ping pong on here. So what we would do is we would set an LFO in case if you wanted this to go back and forth. So let's go LFO. And now what we would get into is we'd figure out some way for this rate here to maybe go like this, and maybe just change the offset. There we go. So if we set this offset right here to this LFO and we set the frequency to a beat, which will do it to 1, then what we're going to do now is this is not going to do anything, and this is going to be dictated by this movement here. Now we can also set this to a square. Sorry, we do want some movement, so maybe a triangle. And you can see the playhead right here at the bottom in the green, and then also up here, kind of moving back and forth. So utilizing that, you can actually get into some other creative possibilities, because basically this just gives you playhead control. And so by having this jump around into different things, you can create a sequence that's unique, whether it be through an LFO or a multi-stage envelope or an LFO table. The customization with this is actually a lot more dense than, well, most of the other tools out there. And so if you like making melodies on here, then it's a pretty sick way to do that, to be honest. So anyways, that's how you create a very simple Fugue-esque style machine on this, and there's other ways to do this, I'm sure, but this is probably the most streamlined that I can come up with. If you all like Drambo content, then subscribe to the channel. I don't usually do iPad stuff that often, but I do like it, and I do think that there's such a untapped market, an untapped place for exploration for people that have the power of an iPad along maybe with a DAW or so. So anyways, hopefully that was helpful. Thanks everybody. I appreciate your time, and I will see you all in the next one.